Welcome to the Kybalion Explained. We will explore the 7 Hermetic principles, as revealed in the mysterious text the Kybalion. These principles are said to govern all aspects of reality, both seen and unseen, offering a framework for understanding the universe and our place within it. Before we dive into the first principle, let's briefly discuss what the Kybalion is and why these teachings have endured through the centuries. The Kybalion is a modern presentation of Hermetic philosophy, attributed to 3 anonymous authors known simply as the 3 Initiates. Its roots, however, lie in ancient Egypt, said to have been passed down from the legendary figure Hermes Trismegistus. Hermes, revered as a sage and teacher of the highest wisdom, is considered the father of Hermeticism. The text presents 7 foundational principles that, according to Hermetic tradition, are the keys to understanding the nature of reality, consciousness, and the universe itself. These teachings are often viewed as esoteric or mystical, but their relevance and practical application transcend time. So, let's begin our journey with the first and perhaps most fundamental principle, the principle of mentalism. The Kybalion states, "The all is mind, the universe is mental." What does this mean? The principle of mentalism teaches that everything in the universe, everything we experience, everything we see, feel, and even imagine, exists within the mind. The universe itself is a manifestation of an infinite, creative consciousness. In simple terms, reality is a mental construct. This principle challenges our common, everyday perceptions of reality. Most of us think of the universe as something external, something that exists independently of our minds. But according to Hermetic thought, the universe and everything within it is a projection of a higher mind, a cosmic consciousnness that we are all a part of. This concept might sound abstract, but consider this. Everything you know, everything you've ever experienced exists within your mind. The colors you see, the sounds you hear, the emotions you feel, all of these are internal experiences shaped by your consciousness. They are not separate from you, they are a reflection of your mind's interpretation of reality. Now let's take this idea a step further. The Kybalion teaches that your mind is not separate from the universal mind. In fact, it's intimately connected. This means that you have the power to shape your reality through your thoughts and beliefs. Your mind is not merely a passive observer of the universe, it is an active participant in its creation. Think of it like this. Just as an artist creates a painting, shaping every stroke of the brush with intention, so too do you shape your reality through the power of your thoughts. This is why many spiritual traditions emphasize the importance of mindfulness, focus, and positive thinking. The thoughts you entertain in your mind have a direct influence on the world you experience. So, how do we apply the principle of mentalism in our everyday lives? It starts with understanding that your mind is the key to creating your reality. If you believe the world is full of possibilities and abundance, your mind will filter your experiences to align with that belief. Conversely, if you hold limiting beliefs such as, "I'm not good enough," or "the world is full of scarcity," you will find evidence of those limitations in your life. The principle of mentalism invites us to become aware of our thoughts and how they shape our perceptions. By consciously directing our mental energy towards positive, constructive thoughts, we can begin to shift our experience of reality. This doesn't mean we can control everything that happens to us, but we can control how we interpret and respond to the world. Let's consider an example. Imagine waking up one morning and telling yourself, "Today is going to be a great day." You feel positive, energized, and ready to take on the world. Throughout the day, you notice that things seem to fall into place. You meet friendly people, your tasks at work are completed easily, and overall, the day feels effortless. Now, imagine waking up and telling yourself, "Today is going to be awful." You feel sluggish, anxious, and everything seems to go wrong. People are rude, traffic is terrible, and the day feels like a struggle. In both scenarios, the world around you hasn't changed. The only thing that has changed is your mindset. The way you think influences the way you experience the world. This is the power of mentalism in action. This principle is not about magical thinking or wishing your problems away. It's about recognizing the power of your mind and using that power consciously. It's about taking responsibility for your thoughts and beliefs and understanding that they play a central role in shaping your reality. When we truly understand the principle of mentalism, we begin to see that our mind is not separate from the universe. It is part of the universe. And through the power of thought, we have the ability to influence not only our personal experiences but also the world around us. This principle also invites us to expand our awareness beyond our individual mind. It asks us to contemplate the idea of a universal mind, a vast, infinite consciousness that permeates all things. The Kybalion teaches that everything, from the smallest atom to the farthest star, exists within this universal mind. This is a profound realization. It means that at the deepest level we are all connected. We are all expressions of the same infinite intelligence. And just as our thoughts shape our individual reality, the collective thoughts of humanity shape the larger reality we all share. In the first part of our journey into the Kybalion, we uncovered the power of the mind and the fundamental idea that the universe is a mental construct. Now we move forward to explore two more Hermetic principles that build upon this understanding: the principle of correspondence and the principle of vibration. Let's begin with the principle of correspondence. You may have heard the phrase, as above so below, as below so above. This is the core of the principle of correspondence. It teaches us that there is a relationship between the different planes of existence: the physical, the mental, and the spiritual. These planes are connected, and what happens on one level mirrors or corresponds to what happens on another. At first, this might sound abstract or mystical, but we can see this principle in action in our everyday lives. Consider the structure of the universe. If we zoom out and observe the cosmos, we see galaxies and solar systems that follow specific patterns and laws. Now, if we zoom into the atomic level, we find that atoms and subatomic particles also follow similar patterns and laws. The same organizing principles that govern the stars also govern the smallest particles in existence. In essence, the macrocosm reflects the microcosm, and the microcosm reflects the macrocosm. The universe is made of patterns, and these patterns repeat on all levels of reality. But the principle of correspondence isn't just about the physical world. It also applies to the mental and spiritual realms. For example, think about the relationship between your mind and your body. If your mind is filled with stress, anxiety, or negative thoughts, your body often reacts physically. You might feel tense, experience headaches, or struggle to sleep. On the other hand, when your mind is calm and positive, your body tends to feel relaxed and healthy. This correspondence between mind and body is a reflection of how the mental plane influences the physical plane. Now let's take this idea even deeper. The Kybalion teaches that the same laws and principles that govern the physical universe also apply to the spiritual realm. This means that by understanding the physical world, its laws, its patterns, we can gain insights into the spiritual and mental dimensions of reality. The key is to recognize that everything is interconnected. Here's a practical example of correspondence in action. Imagine you're dealing with a difficult situation in your life, something that feels overwhelming. If you focus only on the problem at hand, it's easy to get stuck in frustration or confusion. But if you step back and look at the situation from a higher perspective, from the above instead of just the below, you might see that the problem is part of a larger pattern, or that it mirrors something within you that needs attention. By shifting your perspective and recognizing the connections between different aspects of your life, you can approach the situation with greater clarity and wisdom. This is how the principle of correspondence can be applied to personal growth. Now let's move on to the third Hermetic principle, the principle of vibration. The Kybalion tells us, nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. This principle teaches that everything in the universe is in constant motion. From the tiniest atom to the largest star, nothing is truly still. Everything vibrates at a particular frequency, and these vibrations define the nature of that thing, whether it's physical, mental, or spiritual. To better understand this principle, let's start with something we can easily observe: sound. Think of a musical instrument like a guitar. When you pluck a string, it vibrates, and that vibration creates sound waves that travel through the air. The higher the frequency of the vibration, the higher the pitch of the sound. But vibration isn't limited to sound. It's happening everywhere and in everything. Consider temperature, for example. Heat is nothing more than the rapid vibration of molecules, while cold represents slower vibrations. Even objects that seem solid and unmoving like a rock are actually made up of atoms that are constantly vibrating. If we could look closely enough, we'd see that these atoms are in perpetual motion. This principle of constant motion applies not just to physical objects but also to thoughts, emotions, and spiritual energy. Your thoughts and emotions have their own vibrational frequencies. Positive emotions like love, joy, and peace have higher vibrations, while negative emotions like fear, anger, and sadness have lower vibrations. What's interesting about this principle is that it suggests we can change our vibrational state. Just as you can adjust the frequency of a musical note, you can raise or lower the vibration of your thoughts, emotions, and energy. When you're feeling down or stuck in negative patterns, the principle of vibration reminds you that you're not fixed in that state. You can shift your energy. This is why practices like meditation, positive affirmations, or even listening to uplifting music can have such a powerful effect on your mood and outlook. These activities help raise your vibration, aligning you with higher frequencies of thought and feeling. The principle of vibration also relates to the law of attraction, which states that like attracts like. In other words, the frequency of your thoughts and emotions will attract experiences that match that vibration. If you're vibrating at a high frequency with positive thoughts and emotions, you're more likely to attract positive experiences into your life. Conversely, if you're vibrating at a low frequency, you may find yourself stuck in negative circumstances or attracting negative people. Understanding and applying this principle can empower you to take control of your mental and emotional state, and by doing so, influence the quality of your life. So, how do we apply the principle of vibration on a practical level? It starts with awareness. Pay attention to your thoughts, feelings, and physical energy. When you notice that you're feeling low, anxious, or stressed, take a moment to shift your vibration. This could be as simple as taking deep breaths, focusing on something you're grateful for, or doing an activity that uplifts you. By consciously raising your vibration, you can change your experience of reality. The principle of correspondence teaches us that everything is connected, and what happens on one level of reality reflects what happens on other levels. The principle of vibration reminds us that everything is in constant motion, and that we can raise or lower our vibrational state, influencing our thoughts, emotions, and experiences. These principles are not just abstract ideas. They offer practical wisdom that you can apply in your daily life to transform the way you think, feel, and interact with the world. So far, we've uncovered 3 key Hermetic principles: mentalism, correspondence, and vibration. Together, they reveal a universe that is interconnected, in constant motion, and shaped by the mind. Now, we dive into the next 2 principles: the principle of polarity and the principle of rhythm. Let's begin with the principle of polarity. The Kybalion tells us, everything is dual, everything has poles, everything has its pair of opposites. At its core, the principle of polarity teaches that everything in the universe exists on a spectrum, with 2 seemingly opposite ends that are actually different degrees of the same thing. Light and dark, hot and cold, love and hate. These are not separate forces but rather varying degrees of the same energy. Consider temperature. If you touch a block of ice, it feels cold. If you touch a flame, it feels hot. But cold and hot are not absolute, independent entities. They are simply extremes of the same phenomenon, temperature. There's no clear dividing line where cold stops and hot begins. Instead, there is a gradual shift from one to the other depending on how much heat is present. The same idea applies to many aspects of life. Think about the emotions of love and hate. On the surface, they seem like complete opposites, and yet they are deeply connected. Both are intense emotional energies directed toward something or someone. In fact, many people have experienced how love can turn into hate and how hate can soften back into love. The principle of polarity reveals that opposites are simply 2 ends of the same spectrum. One can transform into the other when shifted slightly in vibration. This understanding allows us to navigate life with greater wisdom and flexibility. When we recognize that opposites are connected, we begin to see that all extremes are relative. For example, what one person might consider wealth could be viewed as poverty to someone with greater riches. What one person sees as a great victory, another might see as a small success. Polarity reminds us that our experiences are shaped by how we perceive them on this spectrum. This principle invites us to practice balance. Instead of seeing life in extremes, we can look for the middle path and learn to shift our perspective. When you find yourself stuck in negative emotions like anger, sadness, or frustration, the principle of polarity reminds you that you have the power to move toward the opposite pole, toward peace, joy, or acceptance. By focusing on the higher end of the spectrum, you can gradually shift your experience from negativity to positivity. Another powerful application of this principle is in how we deal with conflict. Often we see things as black and white. One side is right, the other is wrong. But the principle of polarity teaches that both sides may simply represent different degrees of the same truth. By seeking the underlying connection between opposites, we can find common ground, bridging gaps, and resolving disputes more harmoniously. Now let's move on to the 5th Hermetic principle, the principle of rhythm. The Kybalion states, everything flows out and in, everything has its tides, all things rise and fall. The principle of rhythm teaches us that everything in the universe moves in cycles. Just as the ocean has its tides, coming in and going out, life moves in a rhythmic flow of rise and fall, creation and destruction, expansion and contraction. Look around you and you'll see this rhythm everywhere. The sun rises, bringing light and warmth to the world, and then it sets, giving way to the darkness of night. Seasons change from spring to summer, then fall to winter and back again. Even in our own lives, we experience cycles of energy, emotion, and success. We have periods of growth and achievement, followed by times of rest or setback. The key lesson of the principle of rhythm is that nothing remains in a fixed state forever. Everything is in motion, moving from one phase to the next. When you're in a high or positive phase, rhythm ensures that it will eventually give way to a low or negative phase. But the reverse is also true. When you're in a low point, rhythm guarantees that you will rise again. This principle can be both comforting and challenging. Let's start with the comfort. Knowing that life operates in cycles can help us accept the natural ups and downs of existence. When you're going through a difficult time, remember that it's temporary. Just as night eventually turns to day, your challenging phase will eventually pass, and a new cycle of growth or joy will emerge. At the same time, it's important to recognize that positive phases are also temporary. No matter how successful or happy we may be, the principle of rhythm teaches us that this too shall pass. But rather than viewing this as a cause for despair, we can use it as a reminder to appreciate the good times when they come and to prepare ourselves mentally for the inevitable challenges that lie ahead. One of the most profound applications of the principle of rhythm is in learning to ride the waves of life. Instead of resisting the natural ebb and flow of existence, we can learn to align ourselves with the rhythm. When we're in a low phase, rather than fighting against it, we can use it as an opportunity for reflection, rest, and inner growth. And when the cycle shifts back to a positive phase, we can ride that momentum, putting our energy into action and creation. This awareness helps us cultivate resilience. We stop being overly attached to the highs and stop fearing the lows, knowing that each phase is simply part of the universal rhythm. The wise individual is one who moves in harmony with this rhythm, recognizing the natural cycles and using them to their advantage. Let's think about this principle in terms of emotions. Everyone experiences emotional highs and lows. Some days we feel energetic, joyful, and inspired. Other days we feel drained, sad, or anxious. The principle of rhythm teaches that these emotional states are part of life's natural ebb and flow. Instead of getting frustrated when you hit an emotional low, understand that it's simply the pendulum swinging back in the opposite direction. Accept it as part of the cycle and know that, in time, the pendulum will swing back to a more positive state. This understanding brings a sense of peace and stability, even in the midst of emotional turbulence. Another important aspect of this principle is the law of compensation, which is closely tied to rhythm. The Kybalion teaches that the swings in one direction are always compensated by swings in the opposite direction. The higher you rise, the deeper you may fall, and the deeper the fall, the higher the rise that follows. For example, if you've experienced significant hardship or loss in your life, the law of compensation suggests that an equally significant positive experience will come to balance it out. Life's rhythm ensures that no phase lasts forever, and the energy you put out will eventually be returned to you in some form. The principle of polarity teaches us that everything has an opposite, but these opposites are simply different degrees of the same thing. By shifting our perspective, we can move from one pole to the other and find balance. The principle of rhythm reminds us that everything moves in cycles. Life has its ups and downs, and by aligning ourselves with these natural rhythms, we can navigate both the highs and lows with wisdom and grace. Thank you for joining us, and remember, life flows in rhythms and opposites are part of the same spectrum. Master these and you begin to master yourself. Stay tuned.